Hey guys. So for this video, we are going to be reviewing the distributive property and looking at some expressions. So if you guys remember, we did this page about a week before we let out of school. So I'm going to go ahead and just complete this, and then and you guys will be able to follow along from home and see how to do it. Okay, so for number one, it says rewrite the expression in factored form using the greatest common factor, using the chart below to show your work. Okay, so first on the left, we have algebraic expression. We have 15x plus 25. So we need to find what our factors are. So if you guys remember that, we're going to write 15x, and then we're going to write 25. Remember, we always want to start with 1. So we have 1, and we know that 1 times 15 gives us 15. So then we go to 2. So we have to think, does 2 go into 15? And we know that it doesn't because 15 is an odd number. So then we go to 3. Remember, our rule for 3, we want to add the digits of the number and see if 3 goes into it. So 1 plus 5 gives us 6, and we know that 3 goes into 6. So 3 goes into 15. And we know that 3 times 5 is 15. So next we have 4. 4 doesn't go in because 15 is an odd number, and then we're back to 5. So we're repeating ourselves. So we're done. So we move over to 25. Again, we always want to start with 1. So we have 1 times 25. Then 2, again, we know that it doesn't go in because 25 is an odd number. For 3, we want to add our digits. So 2 plus 5 gives us 7. Since 3 doesn't go into 7, then 3 doesn't go into 25. 4 doesn't go in because 25 is an odd number. But 5 goes in because it ends in a 5. Remember, any number that ends in a 5 or a 0, 5 can go into. So if we look at what our common factors are, we have 1, and then we have 5. Okay, so over in this right box where it says greatest common factor, we know that the bigger number between 5 and 1 is 5. So that's going to be our greatest common factor. For the far right where it says GCF, greatest common factor, equivalent expression, remember that's where we put the greatest common factor on the outside of the parentheses. And then on the inside of the parentheses, we're putting what we're multiplying it by. Okay, so we know if we look over here, we're multiplying 5 times 3x to get 15x. So we're going to put 3x, and we see that our symbol is addition. So we want to do plus, and then we have 5 times 5. So for our greatest common factor equivalent expression, it's going to be 5 on the outside, because that's our greatest common factor, multiplied by 3x plus 5. Okay? For the tape diagram down below, it says create a tape diagram to model to represent your equivalent expression. You should have more than 2 boxes drawn. So what we're drawing is our equivalent expression over here. Remember, the number on the outside is the amount of groups. So what we want is a tape diagram with 5 groups. Okay, so we're going to make our tape diagram, and we want to make sure that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different groups. Remember, what goes inside each of the boxes? That's what's inside our parentheses. So we have to put a 3x plus 5 in each of these boxes. And what that's showing is that there are 5 groups, which is our greatest common factor, of 3x plus 5, which was what it was inside our parentheses. Okay? So now if we move down to number 2, we see that we have select the expressions that are equivalent to 3, and then in parentheses, 6b plus 8. So remember, when we are trying to figure that out, we need to use the distributive property. So we have 3 on the outside, and then 6b plus 8 on the inside. To do the distributive property, remember, we want to do those arrows pointing at each of the numbers on the inside. And what that means is multiplication. So if we multiply 3 times 6b, then we get 18b. And if we multiply 3 times 8, we get 24. So this question, or this expression, simplifies to 18b plus 24. So what we're trying to find in all of these options is if they are equal to 18b plus 24. So we'll start with b because this one's already written. It says 18b plus 20. Since this doesn't say 24, we know that that does not work. If we look down at d, all it says is 42b. We know that's not correct because we cannot add 18b plus 24. That doesn't make 42b. If the 24 had a b on the end of it, we could, but since they both don't have that variable, we can't do that. So we know d does not work either. So now we want to look at both a and we want to look at c. So remember, what we have to do is we have to draw our arrows. So what we have to see is first 2 times 9b. If we multiply 2 times 9b, that gives us 18b. So that matches that first part. And then if we multiply 2 times 12, that gives us 24. So we know that A works because it matches both the 18b and the 24. For C, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to draw our arrows. So 3 times 6b, 3 times 6 gives us 18. We have that b. So we have 18b, so that part works. And then we have 3 times 8. If we multiply 3 times 8, that gives us 24 as well. So we know that C works. Okay, so for number 2, the expressions that are equivalent or the same are A and C. All right. For number 3, use the distributive property to write an equivalent expression. Show your work. All right, so remember for this, we need to do the same thing as up top. Okay, but we're not writing equivalent. We're not writing multiple equivalent expressions. All we're doing is doing the distributive property, and we're writing one expression. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing here. So we have 3 times 4c, and then we have 3 times 5. So if we multiply 3 times 4c, we get an answer of 12c. Because remember, all we do is 3 times 4, which is 12, but then we have to add that variable. For the second one, we have 3 times 5. We don't have to add the variable there because we do not have it on the end of that 5. So all we do is 3 times 5. And that gives us an answer of 15. All right, and that's it for that problem. So those are pretty straightforward. A lot of us were then trying to draw tape diagrams and trying to simplify this even more. We were overthinking it. Okay, this is all we had to do. So for the next one, for B, we have 4x on the outside. We're going to multiply that by 5. And then we're going to do the same thing when we're multiplying it by 7. So first thing, we have 4x on the outside. So that's being multiplied into the 5, also into the 7. So both of our numbers, when we simplify this out, we should have an x on. So 4x times 5. 4 times 5 gives us 20. And we have to add that x. So we have 20x. And then for the second part, 4 times 7, that gives us 28. And then remember, we have to add that x on. Okay? And that's all that we have to do to complete this worksheet. All right? So for your guys' assignment that's online on the MySPS Classroom, it's going to be very, very similar to this. So you guys are going to want to refer to this video so that you guys can see the proper way how to do this, as well as if you want to take any notes on this. All right? And if you have any questions, remember, you can always email me and ask me any of those. All right?